Our recently leaked Help Wanted 2 details and gameplay elements start us right here. Physical leaked assets of the levels meant to make an appearance in Help Wanted's official sequel. You see, we're able to start picking up on actual game features and big reveals early on based on the PAX West convention Help Wanted booth that highlights key game mechanics that FNAF's production team feels comfortable enough to push out to a small collection of people. Essentially, one of those depictions we received through this convention booth happens to be an early look at a remastered version of the bonus hallway levels. In the previous game, this exact sort of level was already launched in order to feature the likes of Plustrap and this ugly freak of nature. Our leaks suggest this same sort of flashlight timing concept is going to be coming right back for round 2 with the addition of a brand new star of the show. We can tell based on the associated convention picture that the specific model we're going to be met with in this upcoming VR installment doesn't quite match Plustrap's typical appearance, meaning it's a completely different animatronic entirely, likely Toy Proxy. Toy Proxy is a sort of early development test placeholder that we can assume is meant to be replaced by a new model in the official release. So along with a string of early confirmed levels, our leaks continue to give us a better idea of what game elements from previous installments are set to make an appearance. It started with another one of these small details from the PAX West convention booth that highlights what some point out to be the exact same sort of vent area we crawl through in the earlier installment of Sister Location. It's being brought back to us in a very similar fashion to our original gameplay leak that tells us it could be another sort of level meant to tie together with our new game possibilities. But in terms of what developers have revealed to players early, we aren't done yet. In response to the early tech demos that are to be held in early September, a QA tester comments on the entire development process with, "You guys are not ready for what we have cooking," followed by a comment insinuating the player is gonna be left in tears. Specifically, that something about this upcoming project is meant to make us literally cry. In terms of what this tells us to expect here, we can associate our QA tester's hints to the new wave of storytelling Steelwool has been taking with this franchise. FNAF Ruin is a great example of this concept with building a stronger connection between the characters and us, the actual player. It gives us a more personal and emotional experience that adds to the depth of their future additions to the FNAF story. So connecting back to our sequel, it seems likely it's gonna be incorporating a similar sort of storytelling approach that's gonna leave us sad. Building off of our early release information from our game elements is actually what's gonna let us know everything we should be expecting to see in FNAF Help Wanted 2. The leaked depiction of the hallway flashlight level as a remastered comeback tells us that the physical game aspects are meant to include more than just Sister Location specifically. We know it's presented as the main theme in our actual game teaser and connects a lot of the loose ends from the preceding DLC, but it isn't going to be the only piece of the puzzle in terms of levels thrown at us. We know the first FNAF Help Wanted was meant to be a combination of the first couple games with a story more centered around the playtester mind control that ties it back to FNAF's main story. But in regards to the sequel, things aren't as simple. We know following the same pattern as the original leaves us with the potential of FNAF 4 elements, Sister Location elements, Pizzeria Simulator elements, Ultimate Custom Night elements, and Security Breach elements. But all things considered, there's gonna be some changes you're gonna need to know about. You see, as I've touched on before, the color palette and scheme of the character designs for Security Breach are said to be linked with issues with potential seizures and just an uncomfortable experience for the player, with how much the brightness could potentially burn the player's eye sockets. Considering we've actually had an earlier portrayal of what this could have potentially resulted in based off the way it was presented on a FNAF YouTuber's custom version, we know there appears to be some workarounds in the developmental process here. This is the huge important part I've recently been updated with, because we're given the key detail of bonus setup pictures of our FNAF Help Wanted 2 convention booth that reveal to us the use of the same exact trademark characters that are actually meant to make an appearance after all. Footage brought to us by a Twitter user reveals, what do you know, the same decor linked to Glamrock Freddy, Roxy, and Monty. Considering it isn't in any way tied to the original post from the Steelwool page, we can assume this is something they were originally meant to keep under wraps for now. The confirmed inclusion of certain in-game levels in which we interact with Security Breach characters. Gameplay setup-wise, this further pushes us in the direction of the same format of an in-game company, like we've seen originally, that presents us with these games in an attempt to cover up the shady events in the FNAF timeline. That's right, the actual story aspect. For the full picture on what our details tell us, we actually have another leak of the monitor Steelwool hadn't linked to their original convention post that gives us a look on a separate level from its FNAF 4 hallway counterpart. And it's here where we get another level depiction that sort of matches the similar vent design I brought up previously as another connection to the sister location elements that are gonna give us a big chunk of the story that tell us what the heck is even going on here in the first place. Or it's just something else and I was way off, please let me know. But that's when we get to the most important element of this entire thing that we finally have more information towards. The story aspect starts with a solid connection we have thanks to one of my viewers that points FNAF Help Wanted 2's story in the direction of the brain distortion gas. This is exactly what we need to finally explain everything. If you didn't know, this very gas was recently brought up as one of the most insane reveals about the original story of FNAF, meant to connect to the present games. We're informed that this gas was tied with making victims see things, nightmares specifically, which is confirmed as the actual catalyst for every single thing that happens in FNAF 4. It was a result of this brain warping gas that, wouldn't you know it, seems to be making a sort of comeback in this new game installment. You see, in terms of the same exact location characterizing the Help Wanted 2 teaser, we're presented with the sister location bunker. The same bunker we know is buried around the same exact location we end up at the end of the Ruin DLC. MatPat himself will tell you that sucker's down there somewhere, and we're additionally told by the big man Scott Cawthon that the direction of these games are going to be exclusively forwards. And obviously this would include the upcoming installment, meaning connecting the end of Ruin to the start of Help Wanted 2 matches together perfectly. And it turns out the involvement of Ruin could go hand in hand with the same gas I mentioned. With the involvement of this brain warping gas meant to be used for experiments, it explains all of the little key details and differences between this Help Wanted 2 bunker depiction and the main one from sister location. It explains why the involvement of the original rooms used for this experimentation are set to make a comeback. It explains why we're left with an open-ended future of the franchise at the end of Help Wanted's preceding game. Having this gas make an appearance to warp the reality of the player, who in this case would be Cassie after the elevator fall, would explain why now we're being told of the involvement of the gas in the first place. Book parallels are always meant to make connections to the current state of the FNAF storyline, meaning the involvement of the gas simply wouldn't fit into place at all if certain elements of it weren't meant to impact the story of Help Wanted 2. And we know we're now working alongside Cassie's family to help clear up mysteries of the past, meaning it makes sense that she'd have a part to play in all this madness. Our original game was portrayed as a connection to the original security breach, and it comes around full circle to support Cassie's new role in this series that's supported by the sequel. The same very sequel that we have more information about regarding the early secrets and leaks. I've compiled everything you need to know in this video to give you a better idea of what we're truly looking at here.